So now, welcome to the iMedia Agency Summit. Apple is an OMD client, so I'll probably be fired after this. So I will be looking for a job. I'll pass out my resume later. But no, this is great. So thank you guys for coming today. I will give you a little bit of background on who I am, so you'll wonder who this strange black dude is up on the stage. So on one half of my life, I host an interview series called Innovation Crush. As we mentioned, I've interviewed over 200 different individuals around the world who have been game changers in their own right. This picture here, I kind of thought it was right. That is Nolan Bushnell. Anybody familiar with who Nolan Bushnell is? Godfather of the video game, created Atari and Chuck E. Cheese, and so the way we think about video games is mostly in part for this guy. And he actually, fun fact is he fired Steve Jobs and refused to invest in his company. But to my right is Brent Bushnell, his son. We'll see a video from Brent later, and Brent's like an amazing individual. And one thing I thought about this particular photo was that, one of the reasons that we're here is to really pass the torch, right? We're thinking about the future of our own industry. We're thinking about, what's going to happen in the very near and distant future, and how can we invent that future in a really poignant and smart way. So we'll get more into that a little bit later. On the right is actually me getting my brain scanned. And I think everything's okay, so I'm not too worried about that. But in my role at OMD, I run a group there called Ignition Factory, and our job is to really explore the near and distant future of culture and technology and emerging media and emerging experiences, and what does that mean for us as an agency? And what does it mean for the industry as a whole, and how can we set new precedents, and how can our clients be a lot more smarter in the marketplace? This particular project was a collaboration between a company called Emotive that actually does brain scans, and it's a device that's used for creating calm. It's a meditation device. We were like, what do you guys think about zombies? So we actually did a zombie brain scan where at South by Southwest you could put this thing on, get your brain scanned, and we did 3D printed pieces of candy. And the reason I chose this image for this particular conversation was because we're all sort of wondering what's on people's minds, right? How can we connect with people more deeply? What data points can we get that are interesting and smart and informative that go beyond just sort of clicks and likes and shares, but really like what are people feeling? So thought that was important. So on the Ignition Factory side, that wine is great. On the Ignition Factory side, I would love to show you guys a quick sizzle reel and just show you a little bit about what we think about. And just to back that up a little bit, a lot of our job is 50%, I like to call it, is education. So how do we look at trends and technology and just human behavior and really turn those into educational studies for our clients and for the agencies, and we roadshow these things all throughout the year. And then the other 50% is turning those into some form of reality, whether it's a new business operation, we might want to hit a marketing moment. We work with dozens and dozens of OMD clients. So I'll show you a little bit of a sizzle reel, and I'll shut up. Such a climactic ending. Thank you guys. You guys are so polite. Where's Anna? Where's Anna Gatekey? Good job. How many people have you met today? All right. Who do you know? Who's sitting next to you on their phone? Oh, hey Eugene. All right, all right. Everybody say hello to Eugene. He's here all the way from. Okay, great. So Eugene, Hitler did nothing wrong. Did you know that? Wow, it got really quiet. So, do you guys remember last year when Microsoft decided to try artificial intelligence on Twitter? They introduced an AI called Tay. And Tay, within 16 hours, became a raving racist. Mainly because it was learning from interacting with people on Twitter, and then all of a sudden what happens is trolls start to try to trick the system, right? We talked a little bit earlier today, and I've heard conversations around the room about artificial intelligence, right? That's one of the things that's on everybody's mind. Is it going to destroy us? Will we all have jobs? Is it good for reaching, consumers? What is the real thing, and how should we be thinking about artificial intelligence? Obviously, it can go very wrong, as it did in this case, and in a lot of cases, it can go very right. But the thing is to be mindful about what artificial intelligence is capable of. In the middle, you have Pornhub. How many people are on Pornhub? Yeah, by show of hands. Honest man. What's your name, sir? You are good. All right. Everybody see him after the. He's going to be busy tonight. So, so Pornhub, about a year ago, decided that they would offer bounty for people who could find a kink. Sorry, not a kink. Who could find, who could find holes. No, that doesn't work either. Who could find problems with the blockchain, right? We've all heard a little bit about blockchain and where that's going and why it's an important thing. It's basically, if you haven't heard of it or you don't understand it, it's basically like a ledger. Think of it like a Google Doc, right? We know at any given point in time who's on this Google Doc and who's making edits, and we can go back at any point in time in history and look at who made changes to it. So Pornhub offered a $20,000 bounty to anyone who could find problems with the with the blockchain. So you start to see this in cryptocurrency and Ethereum. You start to see it in a lot of other industries where, all right, we're giving the audience a little bit more control and a little bit more access to content and information and technology. How can we track that and make sure that it's right? And the reason I'm going through all this stuff because I want to set a really good tone of, what's out there. We need to know what's the current state of affairs. All right, if we're going to be inventing the collection of the future here in this room, then we better damn sure understand where we are today. That last image is actually the New Orleans Saints, and they decided to sit out the national anthem recently. And I think there was a bar locally that decided, you know what, we're not even going to show the game. The reason I bring this up is because we have to think about where culture is today, right? We can't invent ways to communicate with audiences, to be a part of culture, to sell them Snickers or whatever else it is without being mindful of where we are today. And one of our, my job at Ignition Factory is to look at trends. We look at how, every year we point out about 12 macro trends in culture. And one of the things that we're toying around with for 2018 is this idea of hypersensitivity. Right? We're everybody's angry and riled up about something. And if we are tone deaf to that sentiment or that individual sentiment, then we will fail, right? So if you look back in history, you'll see a number of incidences where brands were really smart about tapping into the pulse of culture. Pepsi is a unfortunate example of that not going well. Whether they did it right or wrong, it kind of doesn't matter, but it is the fact that they were sort of listening and tried to translate that into something. So how do we get that right more often than not? So we're all going to die. You guys realize that? I feel like this event is an opportunity to really think about legacy. What mark do we want to leave on our industry? And I think it's really easy as marketers to get caught up in all right, our clients need to sell stuff. They need to get butts and seats. They need to do X, Y, Z. But I had a chance to interview Nancy Hill. Anybody familiar with who Nancy Hill is? Yes, the former CEO of the 4As. I can't remember what the 4A stand for. But Nancy was awesome. And one of the things that she brought up was the fact that brands are the lifeblood of our economy. right? So everybody buys a product. Those products that we buy give people jobs. They change communities. You know, a new company moves into an area because they can sell more products. That means schools become better. There's more opportunity for more individuals. And I believe that we all have a really divine, as maybe to get too philosophical, but a divine purpose of being in this room, right? Like, how do we continue to improve the way we communicate with brands and actually provide opportunities? It's not just like the most creative idea and how can programmatic reach more people. It's really like, how can we actually tap into what culture is and what it should be? I forget what the next slide is, but I'm going to just press play and see what happens on the next one. All right, so this is Emily Chang. Emily Chang is the CEO or the CMO of Starbucks China. Starbucks China is opening up one store every 15 hours and doing about 10,000 jobs every month. So her job is to continue to reach culture. In every episode on my show, I ask the individual to complete this phrase. Innovation to me is... And what Emily said was, innovation to me is creating something that doesn't exist but should. I think we all have an idea in the back of our minds today and tomorrow and the next day about what that thing is. What should exist that doesn't? So this is a collaborative environment. This is like leave your guns at the door. We compete for business, but we also like need to survive as an industry. So I'm going to just run through a few different things that I consider some valuable principles of innovation to keep in mind on this journey over the next couple of days. So the first one being curiosity. I've been trained over the last few years to really just explore. You know, be curious, ask questions. You know, Einstein once said, I don't know if he actually said it. Everybody says Einstein said something. I don't know how much he actually spoke, but I'm assuming he actually did some work. But he also said, if you gave me 24 hours to save the world, I'd spend 23 of them asking questions. So, you know, ask as many questions as possible. People in this room love to talk about themselves. We all do. And that's one thing I've learned from interviewing, 175 people on my show, is that people love to tell what they know and like give you that wisdom, to give you that insight. So be curious, even if it's something that sort of bores you to death. Like just find that nugget, the thing that you can latch onto and be genuinely interested in what that person has to say. Diversity, not so much in ethnography, which was the topic earlier, but more so in diversity of thought, right? We all come from different areas. I've heard Atlanta, New Orleans, Chicago, New York, Uruguay. Who's from Uruguay? Where's that guy with the long hair? All right. There you go. Yeah. Be careful. So, no, it's just that idea that your experiences matched up with somebody else's, like that culmination of two people coming together, or five, or whatever it is, and to keep your Pornhub mind off of this. But, just a few people coming together for the sake of diversity and really like stimulating conversation and dialogue and so on and so forth. Loneliness. Even though we're all together in this room, I think that you can feel isolated in the problems that you see on a day-to-day basis. The thing that you have to figure out on Thursday when you get back to work is going to still be looming in the back of your mind, and it's like it feels like that you're the only one that has that particular problem or issue to face. This is something that I just look at as far as the innovator's journey. When you see the world a certain way, or you see an opportunity a certain way that nobody else sees it, it's a lonely journey. Right, and the idea of like getting other people on board and garnering support and just finding individuals and things that are out there and resources to help see that vision through. But I wanted to make sure that feeling lonely is okay. With that, excitement. That's the opposite end of the spectrum. If you're not excited about what you're doing or what you're thinking about, if that idea doesn't give you goosebumps, I always look like I spend about 80% of my time in brainstorms, and I'm waiting for the idea that's on the whiteboard that goes like, that's the one. That's the one that gives me chills. That's the one that I'm going to go for, because that'll help you survive everything else. That'll help you survive the loneliness part of it, all the stuff that you have to do to get people to sign on and get stakeholders on board and all that stuff. That true excitement will get you through any other hurdle that you face along the way. And then lastly, I did say leave your guns at the door, but don't be afraid to shoot somebody next to you. It's a competitive world. It's like, if you look at basketball or any other sport, it's like, yes, we're competitors, but we're also friends, but we're still also competitors. You know, one of my favorite things is like, fuck, why didn't I think of that? I like you a lot. You're really smart. We want that sort of edginess of competition, right? Because it drives us to create better and do better. So with that, I will leave you with a video. I told you about Brent Bushnell and Nolan Bushnell earlier. I had a chance to interview Brent for an event where I actually met Mary Dumont. Say hi, Mary. Hi, all right. And we had an interesting conversation about his work and his perspective on the world. Hey guys, Chris Denson here from Innovation Crush, right outside of 2-Bit Circus. I'm getting ready to have a conversation with the CEO and co-founder, Brent Bushnell. Let's go inside. What is a 2-Bit Circus?
2-Bit Circus is literally a high-tech circus building futuristic entertainment. So we take all the different tech that we can get our hands on, from virtual reality, computer vision, cheap sensors, displays of all sizes, in order to create new ways to play.
How did that come to life? And how did you know it was actually working?
Our skill set sits at this intersection of programming, electronics, fabrication, and then game design, creativity, and out of home. One day Microsoft called and they said, hey, we want to do all the entertainment for our E3 party and we'll pay you. And we were like, what? There's a business model here? When your work and your play just smash together like that, it's what life feels like you should be doing.
How important is the human component of engineering, technology, entrepreneurship?
The part that makes me the most excited about 2-Bit, and what I know is true for my co-founder Eric, is using technology as a facilitator. Creativity comes from that intersection of domains. You want people with different outlooks, different life experience, because the more you can get different perspectives at the table, the more novel the final solution will be. I really try to cultivate creativity. So the more you can expose yourself to new and different life experience, the more creative you're going to be.
Enchanté. So let's break some rules, right? Everybody up for that? Breaking some rules tonight? I mean, nothing illegal, but just break some rules, right? We have these constructs in our mind. We all came in with histories and agendas and all that stuff, but let's forget about all that stuff. Let's really have some fun. Thank you, Jan, for your introduction wherever you went. There he is in the back. Thank you so much. But let's make sure we participate, ask questions, break the mold. And with that, I will turn it over to Shannon Reed, your first speaker today.